The drop was routine. Class F Moon, abandoned outpost. No atmosphere signatures, no defense systems, no transmissions. The Varn Collective called it a soft claim zone, legal salvage. Scouting Team G-Tech 11 was tasked with verifying resource viability, but what they found was her. The first thing the scouts noticed wasn't movement, it was absence. No animals, no heat, not even wind. The outpost had long been dead, but something had moved through it recently, something that didn't leave tracks. Two scouts vanished 10 minutes after insertion. No comm alerts, no distress calls, just biomonitors flatlined. G-Tech 11 commander Vac Tur thought it was a fault in their telemetry, until they found the first body. He had no wounds, no blood, no sign of struggle, just a look on his face, eyes wide open, muscles frozen, mouth half-formed in a scream, as if he'd seen something so primal, so impossibly wrong, that his mind had simply shut off. Vac ordered a full perimeter lockdown, infrared, kinetic sweep, still nothing. Then one of the junior officers, a fresh hatchling barely a cycle into service, made the mistake of poking through the rubble alone. He found her. Or rather, she let herself be seen. She stood in the open, framed by fractured steel and dusk light, unarmored, no insignia, clothes dusty and worn, human in build, compact like a predator packed into smaller frame. The junior officer raised his weapon and barked protocol. She didn't flinch. She raised her left hand. That's when he saw the mark. It was scorched into her flesh, a rough blackened brand, geometric, angular. It pulsed with a faint red glow like it hated being remembered. He tried to scan it. The scanner shut down instantly. Overload. Software corruption. Then heat began leaking from the device, burning his hand. He screamed. And that's the last thing the squad heard from him. Vac Tur arrived 3 minutes later, found no body, just a rifle snapped clean in two, and a small scorch mark on the ground that formed the first line of the same sigil. Back on the command shuttle, the records team tried to match the mark. Only one result returned, through an emergency back channel meant for high-clearance Black Ops queries. Exempt. No name. No serial. No record of deployment. Just one line of Galactic Accord policy. In the event of exempt-class human activity, no engagement is authorized. Immediate withdrawal is mandatory. Contact with Earth's command core is forbidden. Assume containment breach of psychological warfare protocols. Vac Tur didn't believe it. Cowardice, he thought. Union paranoia. He ordered a full scan of the entire moon. No life signs, no energy patterns, no trace of the woman. But she wasn't hiding, she was choosing. One by one his squad dwindled. No explosions, no gunfire, just reports going silent. Biometrics going dark. At first, Vac assumed sabotage, or an invisible drone weapon. Then his second-in-command, Saren, reported something else. I saw her, Commander. She moved between cover like she wasn't bound by terrain. She was smiling. They tried to capture her, sent drones, launched nerve suppression grenades. But the drones fried in the air. The grenades never landed, caught midair and thrown back. She wasn't defending anything. She was just there. And that was enough to collapse the entire unit. The last thing Vac Tur saw before the signal cut was a shaky helmet feed. Her boots stepping into view. No rush. No panic. Her shadow stretched long across the dust. Then her voice. You shouldn't have come here. And just like that, an entire Varn scout team, 24 elite recon soldiers, was gone. No distress beacon. No return fire. No trace. Only that same burning mark, carved again into the side of their empty dropship. When the report reached the Varn High Council, they sent a priority data request to Earth's diplomatic liaison. The message was short. We encountered a human, no ID, no affiliation, but marked with a sigil we cannot decipher. Please clarify under the shared terms of the Accord. Earth's response came 2 hours later. You encountered no one. Do not return to that moon. There is nothing left to recover. The Varn never replied. They scrubbed the incident, sealed the logs, but rumors spread. They always do. Now across a dozen species there's a whisper. of a human who bears no name, no rank, just a burned mark on her hand, and the power to erase armies without firing a shot. The Varn called it a fluke, a lone anomaly, unrelated to current war priorities. But they didn't send another team. They sent a contractor. Zurax Null, half-machine, triple-processed neural stack, independent of command hierarchy, untraceable, unflinching, and most importantly, disposable. Its mission: locate the anomaly, confirm its origin, retrieve DNA if possible, and if not, terminate. Zurax touched down with confidence. It had hunted humans before, fought Deathworld predators, survived vacuum spikes and thermonuclear fields. This would be just another data point. But as it scouted the abandoned structure, the one Varn reports had marked as her last known location, it noticed something strange. No signs of recent passage, no warmth, no sound, only the faint echo of breathing. But it wasn't coming from the walls, it was inside its head. "Why are you here?" The voice wasn't transmitted. It was printed into every active thought layer, buried beneath logic subroutines, a whisper that didn't echo, a presence that didn't belong. Zurax's HUD flashed, intrusion DETECTD at locked weapons, spun in place. Empty, only a doorway ahead, rusted, caved, and a handprint scorched into the wall beside it, the same mark, unchanged. Zurax ran a symbol check again, same result. Exempt, but this time the system provided a note, one buried deep in Cold War archives, long sealed. Human combatant, origin Earth. Status: unsanctioned, immune to treaty oversight. Combat interaction inadvisable. Level 0 override in effect. A warning, signed by the Old Earth Coalition, stamped with a symbol even the Union had forgotten. Zurax didn't stop. It couldn't. Curiosity was hard-coded alongside its compulsion to finish contracts. So it stepped through the ruins, through dust, rusted steel, broken walls, and into a room carved with claw marks, not by beasts but by rifle bayonets. Human bayonets, old Earth tech, gone for centuries, and in the center a chair, simple, cold metal, and behind it her. She didn't face him, just stared at the wall. Her voice came without movement. "You're not Varn." Zurax pointed every weapon it had. She didn't flinch. "You were made to kill, not to ask why. But that mark," she raised her left hand slowly, "means you're about to learn something you won't survive long enough to process." Zurax opened fire. Plasma bursts, hyperburst slugs, neural destabilizers, they never hit. She was gone before the triggers completed their arcs, not teleported, moved, like the air had been to help her. Then impact. Something cracked through its chassis. Zurax dropped, system screaming, and there she was above it. Exempt doesn't mean I'm above the law. It means the law was written after me. She touched its skull, not hard, just a brush of fingers. Zurax's vision went white. Then came the flood. Memories that weren't its own. Ruins of cities that no longer existed. Sieges that never made the history books. Missions labeled, redacted by Earth's oldest archives. And her, this same woman, appearing again and again across centuries. Never aging, never in command, always at the front, always where treaties died. Zurax screamed. Its system shut itself down in a panic protocol. Before memory corruption reached core levels, before truth rewrote its identity. When it rebooted, it was outside. No memory of how it left. Weapons gone. Mission logs wiped. Only one thing remained. A new line of code etched into its deepest system layer. No origin signature, no encryption, just a sentence. "Leave Earth alone." Back in Varn space, the High Council debriefed Zurax. They asked about the anomaly. Zurax didn't answer, couldn't. When they tried to scan its logs, the systems locked permanently, and its visual sensors only showed the burned mark, over and over, every time. They terminated Zurax. It screamed something as it was deactivated, not in any known language, but the humans who intercepted the transmission recognized the tone. It wasn't rage or pain, it was fear. Word spread again, this time across black markets. Pirate channels, fringe systems, not from Earth, from the Varn, a warning: there is a human on that moon. She is not cataloged, and if you see her mark, run. But it was too late because she wasn't just on that moon anymore. She'd begun to move. They thought she was a ghost, but ghosts don't leave craters, not ones that glow blue for 3 days. The Varn didn't admit it publicly, but their defense station at Delta 77 was gone. Not bombed, not struck, gone, erased from matter, coordinates lost in navigation systems. One fragment survived, a melted titanium wall with a scorched handprint, the mark. High Command panicked quietly. Earth wouldn't respond. They never responded when exempts were involved, because officially, exempts didn't exist. The Galactic Union demanded answers again. Earth's ambassador only said, if she's been seen, then someone violated the Cold Limits Pact. If that's true, she isn't a threat. She's a consequence. The moon she'd been on was now quarantined by 3 different governments. But it didn't matter anymore, because the mark appeared again, this time in orbit. A Varkari patrol ship docked at a refueling post. No alarms, no sensor anomalies. Then, one by one, the crew lost contact with their systems. Lights out, doors sealed, gravity reversed. And in the final transmission, recorded through an emergency helmet cam, a woman walked down the corridor barefoot, left hand exposed. The mark burned like it was alive, and she said, "You broke the pact. You don't get warnings after that." The camera cut before the screaming started. That mark, burned into her palm, scorched into ships, etched into war records, wasn't just symbolic. It was a designation. Only 6 humans in all of history had been granted it. Earth's deadliest ungoverned protocol. Exempt 0, they were never ordered, they were unleashed. In the Union's Central Archives, one of the oldest restricted files was labeled Operation Black Echo. Its contents were lost, but its warning survived. If an exempt is cited, the war is already over. Across the outer systems, worlds went quiet. Pirates abandoned routes. Smugglers dropped beacons into suns. Outlaw colonies suddenly requested full re-entry into Union jurisdiction, not out of loyalty, out of terror, because word had spread she had moved beyond the moon. Now she was going planet to planet, but not destroying, choosing. Some outposts vanished entirely, others were spared. Every spared site had one thing in common. They'd once refused to fight in the old human wars. They'd chosen peace. She remembered, and she honored that. On Lithari Prime, an elder historian stepped forward and revealed a long-forgotten archive. Footage from 214 years ago, blurry, silent, black and white. A human woman entering a Lithari war dome. Alone, she was unarmed, covered in dirt, bleeding. And in 5 minutes, 6,000 Lithari warriors surrendered their weapons. There was no combat, just her mark. The elder, who had been a child at the time, simply said, "She doesn't bring war. She brings the memory of what it costs." A new name began spreading. Among humans, she had none, but aliens started calling her Ash Veil, because when she left, nothing remained but scorched symbols in the soot. The Varkari finally attempted a counter. They launched a cloaked fleet, 32 vessels, no signals, no beacons, just quiet deployment around the planet she was last seen near. But she wasn't there. She was already aboard one of them. By the time they noticed, their gravity drives collapsed. Their hulls bent inward, and their command AI began reciting her words from previous encounters, like she'd infected the ship with her voice. One captain begged for mercy over Union relays, got no reply until the final moment. A wide-angle hull camera captured her walking calmly into the bridge. No weapons, just her eyes. And the voiceover from the AI spoke. "The treaty burned when you walked through." Then silence. What the Union feared most wasn't the destruction. It was the silence after, because she never explained, never justified, never paused. She moved like a force of nature, not a person. And behind her, the galaxy bent to remember what Earth used to be. A mining world went dark. No weapons there. No bases. Just workers and atmospheric regulators. No one should have cared. But then, the entire world stopped transmitting. No explosions. No distress calls, just gone. The Union blamed pirates. The Varn blamed sabotage, but one image leaked. A fragment of surveillance backup found in an orbital drone, corrupted, glitchy, decayed. And in a single frame there she was, back turned, left hand visible. The mark lit up red and burned through the lens before the system collapsed. The fear changed after that. This wasn't military anymore. This wasn't insurgency. This was a reckoning. Back on Earth, a general stood before the Security Council and said, "She's not responding to any command chain. We made her that way. She remembers wars we erased from history. She remembers who started them. And she's writing endings we refuse to." No one objected, because the last time someone tried to track her, he lost his mind. Earth's official stance became policy: no engagement, no interference. If she appears, you leave. But that didn't stop the others. A council of outer colonies, paranoid and arrogant, formed a private mercenary fleet. They called it containment. 50 ships, experimental AI warfare, designed not to kill her but to box her in, trap her long enough to deliver judgment. They never broadcasted what they were doing, but she already knew. When they arrived in orbit, she was waiting on the hull of one of their own ships. Not suited, not shielded, just standing there in the vacuum, staring into the main observation dome. No airlock breach, no warning, just the mark glowing in the void. And then the AI began to scream, not words, not warnings, but the sound of metal remembering fire. In under 20 minutes, every ship shut itself down, not destroyed, just turned off, like they'd chosen death over fighting her. The only survivor was a single pilot left floating in an escape pod. He was later recovered by a neutral trade barge. He never spoke again, but he carved the mark into the wall of the medbay with his fingernail before dying in sleep. Across the galaxy, cultures began to treat sightings of her like omens. The Treshi called her the Red Memory. The Gull said she was the one that carried Earth's rage. The Lithari offered prayers. The Varn began surrendering before engagements. And the Union, they started deleting her name from all new records because they knew names die but symbols survive. And her symbol, her mark, was showing up on walls, floors, satellites, and ships, burned, painted, sometimes carved with bare hands. No one knew who was doing it, but every time it appeared, violence stopped, not out of peace, but out of remembrance. The truth was simple: she'd become a law of the galaxy, an equation. You spill blood where it didn't need to be spilled, and the mark follows. You justify cruelty with treaties, and the mark burns them. No one knew how old she was. No one knew her name, but everyone knew what the mark meant. This war doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to someone who remembers every reason it started. And she was still out there, walking, watching, choosing, not as a soldier, but as Earth's last unanswered question. The galaxy had adjusted to her. War fleets patrolled less aggressively. Pirate kings disappeared without fights. Treaties were reread, reworded, respected for fear of waking her. No directives came from Earth. No denials. No confirmations. Just silence. A silence that meant one thing to those who understood: Earth didn't own her anymore. But it knew she was watching. Deep in the Union's restricted archives, one message remains encrypted, time-stamped 117 years before her first recorded reappearance. A black channel from Earth's command core, buried, deleted, but never overwritten. It reads, "Initiate exempt class severance. Memory clearance complete. Name erasure confirmed. She will remember, Earth will not." They hadn't just hidden her, they'd cut her loose, by choice. Because in the wars that broke Earth before the Galactic Accord was even signed, some lines had to be crossed. Lines that generals couldn't authorize, that politicians couldn't be linked to. So they built her. Or maybe she built herself, from pain, vengeance, and the willingness to become what others feared. Then Earth did the only thing that could preserve its soul. It let her go. On a forgotten moon near the galactic rim, a child stumbled upon a cave during a survey mission. Inside was nothing except a single sigil burned into stone. Not fresh, not old, timeless. The mark. She hadn't been seen in decades, but the sight of it sparked a cascade. A half-dozen old soldiers across 5 species suddenly woke in cold sweats. A Varn general requested diplomatic asylum from Earth. The Union Security Assembly paused their military funding bill mid-vote, and on Earth nothing was said. But certain lights in deep space early warning systems began blinking red. Because Earth knew the signs, not of an attack, but of a presence, she never returned to Earth, never called in, never signaled, but the world that made her never stop preparing for the day someone would try to bring her back. They feared the cost, because Earth hadn't used her since the last war shattered the stars, and if it ever did again, it wouldn't be to win, it would be to end something. In orbit around a quiet colony, a small freighter picked up a human hitchhiker. She said little, carried no luggage, wore gloves the entire time, except once, when a slaver ship scanned the freighter, locked weapons, and demanded surrender. The crew panicked, but she stepped to the window, removed her glove, raised her hand. No shots were fired. The slaver turned, fled, transmitted a universal ping, exempt SIGHTING, do not approach. No one chased them, no one questioned her. The crew didn't even ask her name. They dropped her off at the next outpost. She vanished into the rocks, and by morning the entire slaver fleet that had docked there was gone. No wreckage, no fire, just silence, and a mark burned into the landing pad. Legends now outnumber facts. Some say she was one of the first humans born in the orbital arcologies. Some say she died 100 years ago, and that the mark chooses a new bearer each time it senses injustice. Others whisper she never existed at all, just a story Earth let spread to keep the stars afraid. But they're all wrong. She exists, and every civilization knows it, because somewhere out there in the black is a lone human, unlisted, unclaimed, unbound. And if she raises her left hand, no army, no fleet, no empire will stop what's coming. Not because of what she'll do, but because of what Earth did once, and what it might do again, if she ever sends a signal back.